All right. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Here we are. And it is Sunday, November 22nd, 2020. We're closing in on the end of 2020. Oh, it's been quite a year. It's been quite a year. So thank you for being here. I am your host for this webinar, Ruben Guzman. MPH does not stand for the speed that I drive my car. All right, so the thing is, I got that master's in public health degree from UCLA back in 1988, and I loved my program. It was fantastic. And I specialized in behavioral sciences, which is an advanced psychology degree, and health promotion and health education. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And when I got done, I had a very important decision. Do I or do I not go back to UC Davis School of Medicine to complete my training, where I'd spent 3 years learning to become a physician? And so I decided at that point that I was absolutely passionately committed to promoting health, and I was no longer interested in treating disease. So I wanted to prevent disease, not not treat it. So as a result, I chose not to go back to medical school. That was a bold decision. A lot of people were really upset with me at that time, but I chose to do that, to follow my heart and to really be with integrity with myself. And I studied lifestyle medicine on my own, and I started reading the works of many profound and amazing authors like Dr. John McDougall and T. Colin Campbell and many others. And I started learning more about lifestyle medicine. And so as a result, I did that. And in 2016, I had a wonderful opportunity, and I went to the nutrition, no, it was nutrition, plant-based nutrition healthcare conference, and it was in Anaheim. And at that conference, I got to find out that there is a new branch of medicine, and it's called lifestyle medicine. Fancy that. So the American College of Lifestyle Medicine is an evidence-based approach to prevent, reverse, and treat chronic disease using lifestyle measures such as nutrition, physical activity, emotional well-being, alcohol and tobacco reduction, healthy relationships, hydration, and sleep. I was thrilled. I was delighted. And so I signed up for my first lifestyle medicine conference in October of 2017 in Tucson, Arizona. Went there. I thought I'd gone to heaven. I was surrounded by about 1,200 healthcare professionals, physicians, nurses, PhDs, lots of amazing and brilliant people, all on the same wavelength, all on the same frequency. It was just extraordinary. And they announced the opening of the first board certification process for physicians, MDs and DOs, but also for professionals, for those with a PhD or a master's in a health-related field. I signed up. I said, I am in. This is what I was meant to do. So I studied for a year. In October of 2018, went to my second lifestyle medicine conference in Indianapolis, and I passed my exam. So I am one of the few, there's only about 500 of us that are board certified in lifestyle medicine. So I am a board certified lifestyle medicine professional, trained to empower you to prevent, reverse, and treat chronic disease using lifestyle measures. I couldn't be more thrilled. And so I get to live into this quote that Thomas Edison said well over 100 years ago. The doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will instruct his patient in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease. He said this over 100 years ago. A lot of wisdom, and that's what lifestyle medicine is basically all about. So I just want to let you know, I have absolutely no conflicts of interest whatsoever. I have no products, no scams, I have no multi-level marketing companies that I'm associated with, none. All right, so I just want you to know that. So I do all of these webinars and seminars for free to make a difference in the world. I believe in the power of paying it forward. I hope you do too. So I really believe in the power of paying it forward. I believe that all of us as adults have an important responsibility to make a difference for our children, our grandchildren, and our future posterity for generations to come. We need to leave a legacy of a planet that they can live and thrive in. And I'm committed to that. I have 4 boys. So for me, it's really important that the world is a better place for them and for their children and for many others to come. I plan on being around for a long time. So I'm going to be a healthy great grandparent one day. So I know that. So I plan on that. I believe that Virgil was correct when he said that the greatest wealth that any of us can have truly is our health. So let's talk about what we're going to cover today. I've got lots that we're going to go through. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the fundamental system that actually determines our health. It's the context for our health. Then I'm going to share my 5 secrets, the 5 major influences that affect everything in our lives, whether we like it or not. And it could affect us in a positive or a negative direction. And I'm going to share that with you. Then I will also share specific practical actions that you can take to powerfully influence your health, your prosperity, your productivity, your relationships, your joy. All right, we're going to talk about that. And then we'll also talk about the surprising impact of our food choices and how that affects our health in so many different ways. And then I'll also talk about how to live a happier life, because this whole webinar is about how to thrive, how to be healthier, and how to be happier. And then we'll talk about how you can create a successful lifestyle change, because information is great. It is, it's wonderful, but information is not the answer. It's information with application. So we're going to talk about how you can actually apply this information and create a successful lifestyle change so that the rest of your life can truly be the best of your life. And that's my commitment to you. I do this all for free because I'm committed to a better planet, and I can't do it by myself. So I also am going to ask all of you to help me by sharing this information with your friends and your family members. I am clear, and it's already happened so many times, that if you share this information, it can save a life or 2 or even more. So it will make a difference. So please be willing to share this information. Yeah, go ahead and unmute there, Cindy. Yeah, you can unmute. Let's see if you want to. Yeah, go ahead, Cindy.
You're asking me?
Yeah. Oh, did you want to unmute?
No.
Okay, got it. Okay, so you can go ahead and go back to muting. That's fine. All right, so let's get started. We're going to dive into all of this, all right, and cover all this. Be sure to use the chat window if you want to ask questions. If it's really pressing, then you have to unmute yourself, but the chat window is always open, and I will definitely cover all of that by the time we get done. So one of the things that we have to look at is the information to how to actually become healthier and happier and to thrive. And I have many, many, many teachers. So I just want to let you know, I am completely a student. I'm a student of life, and I'm constantly learning. I have many, many teachers, wonderful teachers. I do not in any way stretch of the imagination think that I've got it all figured out. No, I am a work in progress. I always have been. I always will be. All right. So I have many teachers. Now, one of my teachers has some words of wisdom to impart to you as we get started today. So I'm going to invoke his spirit here right now. You must unlearn what you have learned. Okay, so I'm hoping that you're willing to listen to the wisdom of Yoda and to have an open mind. And one of the things that I've discovered that's very important for us as we progress in becoming better as human beings is to be willing to unlearn, to let go of our attachments to our beliefs of how we think it should be. And that really makes a difference. So if you're willing to do that, we can get started. So now one of the things that I want to share with you is a very powerful quote that I learned from my professor at Cal Lutheran University many years ago. And he said this, remember this, he said, that all of life is in one of two states at any given moment. Either it is surviving or it is thriving, and that's all there is. And when he said that, it shocked me and I didn't understand. I raised my hand. I said, I don't get this. Are you saying it's just one or the other? And he said, yes. I said, I raised my hand again. There's got to be a bell-shaped distribution here. How can this be? He said, sit with it, Ruben, you'll figure it out. I sat with it for 3 years. 3 years. I sat with it for 3 years before I could connect the dots. I'm one of those that I need to know. I want to know right away. But no, I couldn't know. And so I sat with it. Dr. Kaliski did that to me. And so in medical school at UC Davis, I was taking a class in embryology. And embryology is the study of the embryonic period of human development. So it's from the moment of conception to the point where everything is there and now it just gets bigger. So in that process, which is amazing, it's amazing. There's so much change going on, and it pretty much corresponds with the first trimester of a pregnancy. So early on in our process, we all look like this. This is a ball of cells. We refer to it as the blastomere phase. So blasto meaning ball, and all the cells look alike. You can't tell them apart. Now, what happens is that this ball of cells keeps multiplying cells, and then the ball gets bigger and bigger and finally gets to a point where it starts to fold inward and forms a tube of cells. Now, this tube of cells is very interesting to look at, because this tube of cells will become the first organ system of the body to become distinguishable and operational. This tube of cells is referred to as the neural tube. So the neural tube is what gives rise to what we call the limbic brain, which is the central features of the brain: the hippocampus, the amygdala, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, all those central features of the brain combined with the entire spinal cord. So this is what the neural tube becomes. And what the professor said is, this is the electrical system of the body. It's the first organ system to become distinguishable and operational. Now, here's what's fascinating, is that the professor said once it's turned on, it's on 24/7 for the rest of your life. Now, this is very important again. He said it's an electrical system, and it's got the same features as any other electrical system. It's got two poles, a negative pole and a positive pole. So you've got a negative current, a positive current. So you have that in the human body. So what we see is in our central nervous system, we have the positive current, which is referred to as the parasympathetic branch of the central nervous system. And when it is on, it's going to affect every single organ system in the body and every single cell. We've got trillions of them, in a particular way. So there's a pattern in which all of these cells and all of these organs are affected when we are in the parasympathetic state. So it's a state. So when we're in the parasympathetic state, everything is affected a particular way. Now, the negative pole of the central nervous system is the sympathetic branch of the central nervous system. Now, when we are in that state, it's going to affect every organ system in the body and every cell, but it's going to affect it in the opposite way. In the opposite way. So these are polar opposite of each other. This is critical to understanding how we can actually thrive and be healthy. This is really critical to understand. Now, what the professor said was that once this system is turned on, it's on all the time, and we operate either in the parasympathetic state or the sympathetic state. We can go back and forth between the two, but we do not operate both at the same time. That would cause a short. Now, this is critical, because every healthcare professional learns this, but doesn't remember it. They forget it after their board exams, because this is the foundation for our health and well-being. It really is. It is absolutely the foundation. So we have to get and understand that when we are in the sympathetic state, our body is reacting to stress. We're in a state of survival. Our brain is wired to survive. And it's operating in a primal state. The central part of the brain, the limbic brain, is primal. So we may recognize fight, flight, freeze, or fold. But even as subtle as a perceived threat is enough to trigger us being in the sympathetic state. What we see in the literature is clear that the common thread of all chronic disease is being in the state of dis-ease. For whatever reason, far too much. So when we look at heart disease, cancer, diabetes, fibromyalgia, arthritis, multiple sclerosis, you can list them all off. The common thread for every single one of them is being in the sympathetic state far too much. So what lifestyle medicine is all about is fundamentally, the foundation of lifestyle medicine is about being able to shift the central nervous system state from being predominantly in the sympathetic state to being predominantly in the parasympathetic state. Now, when we're in the parasympathetic state, we experience peace and pleasure, restoration, digestion, fun, play, and ease. When we're in fun, play, and ease, that's parasympathetic. But our body is thriving when we're in the parasympathetic state more of the time. And the beautiful thing is that if we have conditions of chronic disease, we have to be in the parasympathetic state to experience healing. That is how we heal. And it's far more effective than any medications that we've ever seen. That's the beauty of this. And we experience ourselves living powerfully. This is the beauty of what we're trying to do in lifestyle medicine. Now, what I have been sharing with people for many, many years is that there are 5 secrets that I have for being able to direct which state we are in, that we have total control over. So these are my 5 secrets. So we want to talk about these elements, these 5 elements that influence which state we are in the nervous system state. So we are going to be either in the sympathetic or the parasympathetic. We can take actions to direct our central nervous system to be in the sympathetic or parasympathetic. Most of us never consciously do this, but with powerful conscious awareness, we can actually direct what state our central nervous system is in. So the first secret, and most predominant and most profound, the first most significant influence of our central nervous system is right here, is the thoughts that we think. I love this quote from Buddha. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we remake our world, the world that we live in and everything around it. Now, this wisdom is not just in Buddha, it's in so many other places, so many places that we see this wisdom that really talks about it. In fact, in the Bible, there's from Proverbs 23:7, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. And based on this, a man named James Allen wrote this profound 40-page book called As a Man Thinketh. And from his book, he wrote this, that all we achieve and all that we fail to achieve is the direct result of our own thoughts. You are today where your thoughts have brought you. You will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you. This is so profound. And there's this wonderful documentary, by the way. I encourage you to watch it. It's called As a Man Thinketh. It's fantastic. So I encourage you to watch that documentary. You can find it at different places. Okay, so check that out. It's fantastic. Now we're going to dive more into the power of our thoughts later on, because here's the deal. You know, as James Allen is talking about here. So we have a choice as to our thoughts. If we have stinking thinking thoughts, as Zig Ziglar told me a long time ago, then we're going to be in the sympathetic state. If we have powerful, positive thoughts, as Norman Vincent Peale taught me a long time ago, and we use the power of positive thinking, then we're going to be in the parasympathetic state. We get to choose our thoughts. We do. We get to manage our thoughts. The challenge is being able to manage our thoughts. One of my friends, Mary Laura, wrote a book called Managing Thought. Fantastic book. Fantastic information. So we need to actually practice managing our thoughts. So we're going to talk a little bit more about practices that we can do to manage our thoughts much more effectively, because this is the key. It's absolutely the key. So we'll talk about our mindset, our thinking, our attitude, our consciousness and awareness. So that's the first secret. The second secret, consistent with our thoughts, are going to be the words that we speak. The words that we speak absolutely affect our central nervous system state. If we use negative, harsh words, we're in the sympathetic state. If we use positive and uplifting words, we're in the parasympathetic state. But I learned something many, many years ago. I learned sticks and stones can break my bones, but words, you know the rest, will never hurt me. Huh, that's a lie. Have you noticed that? It's a lie. Absolutely. Words are powerful. They are so powerful, and they make a powerful impact on ourselves and our lives. And it's not only the words that we say, it's the words that we hear and the words that we say to ourselves. Like, all of it makes a profound difference. It really does. I love this quote, going back to Buddha. He said, words have the power to destroy or heal. Notice the dichotomy there. When words are both true and kind, they can change our world. Yes, absolutely, because we'll be in the parasympathetic state. So it really makes a difference. So we can choose. So if we have negative, critical, cynical, skeptical, if we're complaining, okay, if we're gossiping, then we're in the sympathetic state. If we're encouraging, supportive, uplifting, being loving and attentive, and then we'll be in the parasympathetic state. So our words really make a difference, really make a difference. I love this one. This is an old Arabian proverb that one of my teachers taught me a long time ago, that the words of the tongue should have three gatekeepers. Is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? Now, truth be told, when I first learned this, I didn't say a whole lot for a long time. I was pretty quiet, okay? Because to be able to satisfy this takes a consciousness and awareness. It really does. You really have to use some awareness. You got to think before you speak. How many of us actually think before we speak? You know, we get the first thing that comes to our mind, and then we need, in order to really think before we speak, we have to use judgments. Do my words need filtering? Oh, yeah. Am I saying this to hurt the other person? You got to check your intention. Check your choice. Is this something that I need to say? Check your compassion. Can I understand how the other person feels? Check that. Check your empathy. Can I see the other person's point of view? So those are good screens to go through. Did I listen properly? Did I give the other person a chance to actually explain or apologize, or did I cut them off? All right. Will this embarrass this person? Is there a better way or time or place to say this? And then finally, are my words respectful? How would I feel if someone said this to me? This is a wonderful approach to being able to actually screen what we're going to say before we say it. Now, we can easily do that because we've checked in psychology. We're speaking to ourselves about 3 times faster than how we possibly can actually audibly speak. So we're speaking at about 300 to 450 words per minute. So we're speaking very, very fast. So we can do this, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time. But if we practice this screening and filtering what we're thinking about saying and actually thinking it through before we say it, it can make a powerful difference in our lives. Two of the most powerful words that we have in the English language are I am. I am. And because for whatever you put after them, it absolutely will shape your reality. I had a client that I was working with. Now, this is a very powerful and successful businesswoman. She owns a mortgage firm and she's very successful, many years in the business. And one day we're on a coaching call and she's saying, I am tired, I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed. And then a couple minutes later, she's saying, I'm just tired, I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed. And then a minute later, she says it again, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed. And then I said, stop the presses. Stop the presses. I said, so are you listening to what you're saying about you? And she said, what are you talking about? I said, I just heard you say 3 separate occasions, I am tired, I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed. And she said, oh, you're right. Because she's very strong. She's very, very smart, very intelligent. And so she realized that. And I said, now, what is your attitude statement that we've worked on as far as who you declare yourself to be? And she said, I'm an extraordinary and powerful leader, making a powerful difference in the lives of all the people that I touch. I said, how often are you saying that? She said, not enough. Clearly. All right, clearly you're not saying it enough. So one of the things that we have to do is a lot of times we have to retool the natural tendency to have sympathetic statements that say, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve it, all those kinds of things, because those statements create the reality that we live in. So we have to shape our reality by what we say. So that's the second secret. The third secret, consistent with our thoughts and our words, are the actions that we take. Why? Because actions speak louder than words, don't they? Absolutely. And if you're a parent, you've already learned this lesson, because you've learned that your children do not listen to what you say nearly as much as pay attention to what you do. Now, here's the thing. If we say one thing and do another, we are now in a state of what we call in psychology cognitive dissonance. All right, we have created a dilemma. So for us to be able to be powerful and be in the parasympathetic, what we need to be able to do is actually walk our talk. We have to be consistent with what we say. Otherwise, we're in the sympathetic state. I love what Stephen Covey says, and he says this, that the key to growth is to learn to make promises and to keep them. No kidding. And it's not only promises to others, but it's also promises to ourselves. It really is. And that's where it really begins. So it really is about living a life of integrity, making promises to yourself and keeping them and being true to your word. So that's the third secret. Now, the fourth secret is also powerful. So consistent with our thoughts, our words, our actions is also going to be the company that we keep. Now, I'm so glad that my mother was picky about my friends when I was growing up. She was picky. She made sure that any of my friends came from good families, they were good kids, good parents, because she knew the importance of relationships. She understood that. And no kidding, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Really, that is truly the case. There is this wonderful book called Connections, and it's fantastic because the research actually validates this. And you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Yes, absolutely. And then some. What we've shown in the research is that it's not only the first 5, but it's also each of their connections as well. We're influenced by people that we don't even know. Interesting, isn't it? So it really is important for us to be mindful about who we associate with. It really makes a difference in the aspect of our health and our joy and our happiness and being able to thrive. If we surround ourselves with people who have stinking thinking and are critical, cynical, skeptical, and they're saying negative words all the time and they're complaining and gossiping, that's going to bring our energy down. You probably have noticed that for yourself. You probably have a friend that when their name shows up on the caller ID, you think twice before you answer, because you know what's coming next, right? So we want to make sure that we build up that inner circle of 5, and then we build up outside of that as well. So we want to be doing that. And we need to be attentive to the people that are draining our energy. We need to be attentive. It doesn't mean you stop loving them, because a lot of times it could be your own family, right? Doesn't mean you stop loving them. No, you just build up that inner circle and you love the people that you love from a little bit further afar. That's what you do. I love what Zig Ziglar has to say. He says this: life is too short to spend your precious time trying to convince a person who wants to live in gloom and doom otherwise. Give lifting that person your best shot. I recommend 1 shot. Okay. Not a million shots. Okay. Forget that. That is exhausting. No, 1 shot, maybe 2. All right. That's it. Limit it. But don't hang around long enough for his or her bad attitude to pull you down. Instead, surround yourself intentionally with optimistic people. Wisdom from a great teacher, Zig Ziglar. I love this one. Now, I love also Gandhi had this to say: I will not let anyone walk through my mind with their dirty feet. Don't you just love that one? That's so great. I just love that one. And if you're really out to create a thriving, healthy, happy life, then what you want to do is you need to hang out with people who are consistent with your future. They fit your future that you're out to create, a bold and wonderful and a fantastic future, not your history, no matter what your history is. Okay, don't go back to the past. Create people that fit the future that you're out to create. That's who you want to hang out with. So that's the 4th secret. And now for the 5th secret. Now, the 5th secret is kind of a shock for a lot of people, because most people never think that this affects your central nervous system. It's clear. It's clear that the first 4 do absolutely affect your central nervous system. That's easy to get. But the 5th one, most people never think of this, but it's true. It's absolutely true, because everything affects our central nervous system. I mean, everything. Everything affects our central nervous system, and something that we do all the time because we have to. We have to eat. We have to eat. So does food affect our central nervous system? You better believe it. Most of us never think that. We think of, if it tastes good, smells good, looks good, then it must be good. That can be deceiving, because food doesn't necessarily have to be healthy, but it can look good, taste good, and smell good. Well, sometimes we check the labels for the nutritional value, right? We're looking for, grams of protein, grams of fat, grams of sugar, all that kind of stuff. We read the labels and I say, oh, it's got all this in it, it must be healthy. Not necessarily true. Do they have to put everything on the nutritional label? No. Sometimes we listen to the recommendations of so-called experts that appear on the Dr. Oz show, which have so many contradictions every week. Every week there's so many contradictions. So the thing is, we put our faith in other people thinking that they are the experts. And by the way, if you put your faith in a physician thinking that they know about nutrition, unless they've actually individually taken on studying nutrition on their own, they know almost nothing about nutrition. I can attest to that, because when I was at UC Davis School of Medicine, our nutrition course was a whopping 10 hours. And we spent the first half studying the micronutrients, all of that. And the other half we studied kwashiorkor, marasmus, beriberi, and scurvy. Nutritional deficiency diseases we haven't seen in over 100 years. It was a worthless class. And by the way, the book was given to us by Upjohn Pharmaceuticals. Interesting, isn't it? So food absolutely affects us neurologically. It absolutely does. And it will trigger either a sympathetic or a parasympathetic response in our body, depending on what it is. We'll talk more about this later. Absolutely. But the thing is, it absolutely does create a central nervous system, a neurological response. Now, the next time you go to a party and they have hors d'oeuvres, you will need to ask the waiter, will this cause a sympathetic or a parasympathetic reaction in my body? So they'll look at you a little strange if you do that. All right, so the thing is, here's what we show. And it's really incredible, the research that we're able to show, because everything is energy and our brain is energy, our body is energy. And because of that, we're able to actually look at brain scans and we're able to see that everything affects our body, especially our food. So the food that you eat will either be the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. So we're going to dive into this further. And what we see on the brain scans is this. This is what we see. We can actually see it. They can actually code the frequency on this. So when we're not depressed, we're in the parasympathetic state, and there's a different vibration, a different frequency. And then when we're depressed, we're in a lower vibration, lower frequency, and then we're in the sympathetic state. So it's fascinating to see this. Dr. Daniel Amen has done like over 20,000 brain scans and being able to look at that. And we've actually even looked, we put people in the scanners, and it's fascinating because we can put people in the scanners and we can show pictures in front of them in very, very rapid succession. And we can see the brain change frequency from parasympathetic to sympathetic, just like that. It's amazing how our brains work and how our body works. It's amazing. So in summary, the 5 elements that influence our nervous system state that we have total control over are the thoughts that we think, the words that we speak, the actions that we take, the company we keep, and the food that we eat. Now remember these 5 because you have total control over these 5. Now let's talk, we're going to dive into today, we're going to dive into the thoughts that we think, and then we're also going to talk about the food that we eat, and then I'm going to finish up talking about being happy. All right, so let's dive in to the thoughts that we think, because really when it comes to being healthy and being able to thrive and being happy, it starts from within. It is absolutely the key. We must begin from within. Mindset is the key. Now, it's the context, it's the framework. So if I've got this glass of water right here. Now I can move this glass of water and the water stays constrained within the glass. It's not spilling all over the place. That's because the glass is the context. The water is the content. So here's what most people try to do. They try to change their lives by changing the content, but never addressing the context. But that never really makes a significant change because, see, I can swirl this water around a little bit. There's no significant change to the water because after I stop, guess what? It goes back to where it was before. In order to make a significant change, I've got to change the context. It's always decisive. So the context is the mindset, the thinking, the attitude, the consciousness and awareness. And that is the context for how we shape our lives. I'm going to refer you to this absolutely fabulous, fantastic book. One of my favorites is by Dr. Carol Dweck at Stanford University, and it's called Mindset. Now, she studied people. In fact, her studies got started looking at children and examining the question, why is it that some children who seemingly have every advantage in their lives still struggle? And then why is it that some children who have seemingly every disadvantage yet excel? So she started to examine this and studied this profoundly for 30 years. And what she determined is that the key to the difference in how these children evolved and lived was their mindset. So mindset, as she defines it, is a set of beliefs or a way of thinking that determines one's behavior, outlook, and mental attitude. Now, what she determined after all these years is that fundamentally, we have two options when it comes to our mindset. We can either be operating in the fixed mindset, which corresponds with the sympathetic state. Now, the fixed mindset is all about believing that talent is inborn. Either you got it or you don't. You're a winner or a loser. You're a success or a failure. And it desires to be perfect. It's all about an attachment to perfection. Now, you can be accomplished in the fixed mindset, doesn't mean you're necessarily happy. The other mindset is the growth mindset. Dr. Carol Dweck talks about the growth mindset, believing that ability can be developed. It's all about learning and growing and evolving. In the growth mindset, there is no success or failure. There is only learning. That's all it is. It's just continually making progress. So it's about progress, not perfection. And it makes a powerful difference. Now, what we show is that people who operate in the growth mindset more of the time end up doing much better overall over time and being much happier. And they're motivated, the motivations also correspond. So what we see in psychology is that we have two fundamental motivations. One is what we call extrinsic motivation, which is being motivated by money or status or image. All right, and that's consistent with the fixed mindset. Whereas intrinsic motivation is consistent with the parasympathetic branch, and that's personal growth and relationships and contribution. So it really makes a difference in terms of what we see as far as motivation. So it all goes together. When we are operating in the fixed mindset, we're operating in a survival view of ourselves, right? So we're in the state of survival. I love this movie. If you haven't seen this movie, absolutely you should watch it. It's called The Life of Pi. It's really a great movie. So imagine being stranded on a lifeboat with a Bengal tiger. That's rather stressful. So what happens is that when we're in this state, our mind is preoccupied, thinking about our wants, our desires, our issues, our complaints, our judgments, assessments, concerns, worries, anxiety, fears, opinions, expectations. This is exhausting. I'm not going to read the rest. Okay, so the thing is, that's what we do. We're caught up in that swirl of that negative energy. And so what we need to be able to do is shift into the parasympathetic state. So the parasympathetic state is a thriving view of ourselves. And we're growing. So we evaluate our life and we honor our word, our promises, agreements, and commitments. And then we're living our lives based on our values relative to things like responsibility and generosity and integrity and trust and honesty and compassion and acceptance, forgiveness, and acknowledgement. Beautiful. I love the Dalai Lama because he's really a tremendous example of being in the growth mindset, of being able to thrive. Really a beautiful example of that. And by the way, he and Desmond Tutu have this fabulous book called Book of Joy. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. It's really great. So what Dr. Carol Dweck promotes and many others promote is really being in the growth mindset. The growth mindset is healthier. It's healthier because when we're in the growth mindset, we experience continual improvement. We are able to overcome our deficiencies. It's all about growing and developing. We have a positive perspective when it comes to challenges. We take them on as a challenge. We have much higher self-esteem and confidence, not cockiness, but confidence, and it's really good. We have this willingness and accepting the opportunity to stretch, and we thrive even when it's difficult times. It's really important, especially now. With what we're facing with the COVID pandemic, this is really important to be in the growth mindset. Right now, it's critically important because this is a tough time for people. And if we can actually operate in the growth mindset, we can operate in a much healthier way. It really makes a difference. So what we want to do, I want to share with you now, are some tips to improve you being in the growth mindset and for greater health. All right, these are some practical tips, some steps that you can start to take. So look to see if there's some steps that you could adopt and take on for yourself to help you. Now, number one, and this is on many lists, the number one thing that I have read from so many of my teachers, number one in the book is the practice of gratitude. It's absolutely the practice of gratitude. So when you are grateful for what you have, for everything that you have, fear disappears and abundance appears. Being grateful for everything in your life really makes a powerful difference. Now, I started off earlier talking about my biggest gratitude, which happens to be my family. So these are my 4 boys. All right. So this is on the far left is my youngest son. That's Joseph, 6'5", 180 pounds, sopping wet. He is a fabulous swimmer and was a conference finalist in the 200 IM, the 200 breaststroke, and the 100 breaststroke. And I am now his full-time swimming coach because he's staying here in Sacramento and I'm coaching him, and he's doing fabulous. He's doing really well. And he's majoring in economics, and he's brilliant. And so next to him is my eldest, and that is Aaron. Aaron is 34. He is a creative genius. He works for an internet marketing company, and he plays 5 musical instruments. He's been a professional photographer for years. He's done my website as well. So you go to my website, that's my son who did that. And then next to him is Gabriel. Gabriel is 22. He is a transfer student and starting off at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. He's majoring in business. He completed a AA in fire science and business. And his plan and intention is to be a captain in the firefighting community. And he just got hired on with the San Luis Obispo Fire Department. So he'll be starting in the academy in January. And then next to him is my son, Matthew. Matthew is 29 years old. He is a civil engineer, also a graduate of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And so he flies unmanned drones, and his specialty is the big project that he's working on is preparing the light rail system in Southern California in Los Angeles County in preparation for the 2028 Olympics. So they're all doing great. As you can tell, I'm just a little bit proud and a little bit biased, but that's my family. And I'm so grateful. I see this picture every single morning, and I'm grateful to be their father. And I'm grateful for the love that we have. And I'm grateful for the connections that we have. So it's wonderful. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, and this is a powerful practice, is to journal 5 new things that you are grateful for each day. Each day. And it could be even something very, very small, like you got a chance to talk to a friend that you haven't talked to in 2 years. Like that's something to be really grateful for. The flip side of the coin, this is the tougher challenge here, is to eliminate complaining about anything for at least 30 days in a row. Now, there are 2 levels to the game. 2 levels of the game. Now, number 1 is eliminate complaining about anything out loud. Any expression, by the way, is a complaint, okay? So any expression, any negative expression is considered a complaint. So to eliminate any of that for 30 days in a row, as one of my teachers, Edwin Gaines, taught me, is that you have to get to 30 days. If you get to 29 days and complain, you start over. Now, no matter how long it takes, if it takes you the rest of your life to get to 30 days, it will have been a game worth playing. Now, the second level of the game, much more difficult, is to be able to eliminate complaining of any of your thoughts. Now, that one will take the rest of your life, I can promise you. So that's very powerful. It will really make a difference when you can operate from a place of complete gratitude and complaining about nothing. It makes a powerful, powerful difference. And so you have to really create that context. How I do it, I have a powerful prayer that I wrote that I say every day, every time I eat. This is my gratitude prayer. Thank you, God, for everything indeed is a blessing. My life is completely wonderful. I have no complaints whatsoever. Thank you for the opportunity to make a difference in people's lives each and every day. Thank you for this food to nourish our hearts, our minds, our bodies, and our souls. Thank you for this precious time we have right here, right now, the present. And thank you for love that brings us together, for all there is fear or love. We willingly and joyfully choose love. We choose love. We choose love. So my invitation to you, say this prayer or write your own, but say something on a consistent, regular basis. It will make a powerful difference. So the next tip to help you in really staying in the growth mindset is to practice being of service. So practice being able to say, and a great question is, how can I be of service to you? It's a great question. Extend the hand. By the way, the handshake is being the symbology of the handshake is like I have no aggression towards you. My hand is open and I accept you as you are. How can I support you? How can I give to you? And the other person does the same thing. And that's what the handshake is basically saying. How can I help you? How can you help me? So it's a beautiful symbology in that. The next tip to help you in being in the growth mindset is to really practice learning and unlearning. All right. So we need to be able to read, listen, and learn. Now, these days, we have so many opportunities to learn in so many different ways. People say, well, I don't like to read. Well, can you listen? All right, because we've got all kinds of things. We got podcasts, we got TED Talks, we got YouTube videos, we've got audiobooks, we got all kinds of things these days that you can definitely learn. One of my clients says, oh, Coach Ruben, I don't like to read. I said, well, and I don't have the time to read. I said, well, let's look at what you're already doing that maybe you could be learning something new. And it turns out he's a runner and he averages 20 to 25 miles a week. I said, are you doing anything else while you're running? He said, no, I'm just running. I said, well, from now on, you're going to be doing something else. You're going to be listening to audiobooks. So now he listens to audiobooks while he runs, and he has a little 3x5 card that he fills out on what was 1 or 2 or 3 major points that he got from listening, and he has a whole stack of cards. It's amazing. He's like he's becoming a PhD in 2 years' time. It's amazing what he's learned. He goes through so many books. So you can do this. Everyone can do this. Another practice for practicing the growth mindset is really being connected to the food that we eat. So being mindful while we eat, being present, especially when we eat by ourselves, to really slow it down, to really concentrate on the food and being grateful for the food that we have. Feel it nourishing your body. It really makes a difference. So many people are mindless in their eating habits, and they're eating on the go. They're going through the takeout, and they're eating to-go food, and they're just in a rush all the time. So slow it down. It really makes a big difference. Another practice to help you with developing the growth mindset is to surround yourself intentionally with positive people. We talked a little bit about that, but then also positive energy. So I want to talk a little bit more about that, because in Japan has one of the highest rates of work-related suicide on the face of the planet, something called Kahari. It's a special name for it. So physicians in Japan are actually practicing a little bit of lifestyle medicine, because what they're doing now is they're actually prescribing to their patients to go out and what they call forest bathing. So they're prescribing that they spend time in nature, either at the ocean or the forest or a lake or a river, whatever the case may be, but spend time, 20 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. And what we show in the research is very clear. 20 minutes a day makes a significant impact on the central nervous system state, shifting it from sympathetic to parasympathetic in 20 minutes. It does a great job. Another practice that I highly recommend, and of course I'm biased because I started learning yoga when I was 15 years old. I've taught yoga for over 15 years, and it's a fantastic practice. It really is. It is a way of being able to slow things down, to really work with your body, to breathe through things and release the tensions. Yoga is the physical manifestation of emotional detachment. So it really is a powerful practice. It's wonderful. Yoga also prepares the mind for meditation. That's the purpose of yoga, is to be able to prepare it for meditation and stillness. There's a wonderful book by Ryan Holiday called Stillness is the Key. Fantastic material. And it's really about being able to practice being still. Many of us, many people do not practice being still, even for 2 minutes. I mean, it makes a powerful difference. So meditation is not woo-woo, all right? Meditation is just simply stillness. It's an experience of relaxing the body, quieting the mind, and awakening the spirit just by being still. And it really makes a powerful difference. In lifestyle medicine, we have a whole entire course on mindfulness-based stress reduction. MBSR. And I'm going to send you a link to a complete 8-week course for free on mindfulness-based stress reduction, which includes meditation type practices. And what we show in the research is that after 10 minutes, the brain frequency is actually quieter and it's more calm. And I teach my CEO clients this. Why? Because when you're in the parasympathetic state, you make better decisions. And that's really important when it comes to running a business. It really is. So we need to be able to calm the chatter in the brain for a few minutes. So one of the practices is really great. I'm going to send you a special video from one of the PhDs, Dr. Edward. Yeah, so I'll send, anyway, I'm going to send you this video. It's really great. Huberman, Dr. Huberman. So I'm going to take, but one of the things that we want to do, what we notice that in nature, that this is a natural occurring process. All animals do this and humans do it. We do it too when we're asleep. We're not consciously aware of it. But what we do is we inhale, pause, and then inhale a little bit more fully, and then full exhale. So we inhale, kind of pause, inhale just a little bit more, maximum expansion, then exhale. And this process, we do it naturally when we sleep. And all animals do this, but what happens is that when we do this consciously, we actually offload more CO2 and induce being in the parasympathetic state quicker than anything else. So anytime you're stressed, that's a great, great technique. Works really well. Be sure to attend my Stress Management 101 webinar next Sunday. I'll go into it in more detail. All right, so now that covers the growth mindset. Now let's talk about food. Food is powerful. All right, so consider this, my friends, that every time you eat or drink, you are either feeding disease in the sympathetic state or you're fighting it being in the parasympathetic state. You get to choose. That's how it works. It's that profound. So let's first talk about the foods that feed disease. So I'm going to cover this. Now, brace yourself. This might be a little depressing. Okay? So I'm going to give you the bad news first, then I'm going to get to the good news. So hold on. We're going to cover the stuff that feeds disease. Now, number one on the list, the foods that feed disease are going to be all oils. All oil, safflower, canola, olive, coconut, motor oil, all of it, they all feed disease. All of them, every single one. They all cause inflammation. They all cause an endothelial cell response. They all cause lots of things. And in addition, that all foods that are fried in oil, all right, you got these, I think they're called hush puppies. Oh my God, and look at that oil. Oh my God, it's dark and it looks nasty. Nasty. By the way, in case you didn't know, the fast food restaurants, they don't change the oil every time. They change it after days, maybe even weeks of being in the fryer. And then all these fried foods and French fries and everything else. I mean, and by the way, in case you didn't know, McDonald's French fries has 17 ingredients. You can Google this. 17 ingredients, 15 of which are known to cause cancer. And they do not decay. They do not decay. All right. Now, if you're a parent, you've discovered this when you went to sell your car. You went and you cleaned out your back seat. You found the French fries that had been there for years, and they hadn't decayed at all. So they don't decay. Now, what oils do, and just to give you a summary of the research, a summary. So oils decrease the artery endothelial function. They decrease the flow-mediated vasodilation, the ability for the blood vessels to expand and contract. They increase triglycerides, which we don't want to have because that also contributes to inflammation. They decrease oxygen transfer. So when you have oils in the diet, we can't get the oxygen across the endothelium and into the tissues. And then they stimulate a sympathetic response, and it's just immediate, increasing inflammation, never a good thing, and increasing cholesterol, contributing to the formation of the plaque, plugging up the arteries. Not good. So oils do not do us good. They don't. They just don't. And the research studies that show that a little bit of olive oil is beneficial for this or that, that's minute compared to the harm that it causes. But they don't advertise this. So you got to realize that 70% of research studies are conducted to support the marketing of products. So, and they deceive you into thinking that it's good for you, and then you buy their product. It's all a marketing scam as far as being able to do that. So that's number one on the list, all oil. So no oil. Number two on the list is going to be all animal flesh. All right. So all meats, including beef, pork, poultry, fish, and eggs, all of it. Especially egregious and nasty is going to be all the processed meats, but all of them cause a sympathetic response. Eggs also cause a sympathetic response, in case a lot of people say, well, eggs, I've had eggs for such a long time, but one egg has the same amount of cholesterol as a Big Mac, and consuming eggs increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, colon cancer by 500%, folks, 500%, diabetes by 68%, lethal prostate cancer by 81%. Be sure to join me for my Freedom from Cancer seminar that I'm going to do in just a few weeks in December. So check that out as well. Eating meat harms us. Any animal flesh harms us. Excess fat, definitely. There's no fiber whatsoever. And we need fiber for our healthy intestinal tract. Sympathetic response, again, immediate. Acidification and inflammation. So the blood actually becomes more acidic when we eat meat, and there's much more inflammation going on in the blood vessels. IGF-1 as a marker for the causing of cancer. So that's one of the things that we want to not have. And then there's another compound that's present in meat called carnitine. And what we've shown in the research is that this carnitine feeds a particular species of bacteria that proliferate in the intestinal tract that lead to the formation of something called trimethylamine oxide. So here's the graphic on that. So when we eat red meat, poultry, liver, cheese, milk, fish, and eggs, then we get these compounds. All right, so we get carnitine, phenylcarnitine, choline, and betaine. And then what happens is that there's this species of bacteria that only when we eat meat do these bacteria start to proliferate. If we're eating only plants, these bacteria are not present. They're just not, they're not in abundance. There's very few of them. All right, so they're only really in abundance when we're eating animal flesh. And they take all these compounds and convert it to this compound over here called trimethylamine. Now, trimethylamine is very toxic, very toxic. Now, what happens is that the liver is in charge of trying to detox things. The liver is an important organ in the body when it comes to being able to detox. It really does a good job. So it takes this trimethylamine and it's going to then oxidize it and put an oxygen on it, just like rust will oxidize, and iron will oxidize and form rust. So we're going to oxidize it, and then we form trimethylamine oxide, a little less toxic. However, it still causes a lot of inflammation because it gets in the blood vessels and it really starts to score the endothelium, and it becomes the precursor for heart attacks more than anything else that we've ever seen. So we want to avoid that. A lot of people say, well, I've got to have my meat so I can get my protein. That's the reasoning for getting meat. But here we've got the research. We actually showed this. We went head to head, animal versus plant protein. And we also mapped that out in terms of cardiovascular disease risk. So what we showed, this is a large scale study, large scale, not a small study. We're talking large scale. So this is an international journal of epidemiology. This is just 2 years ago. And what we showed is that the people who got their protein from animal-based sources had a 60% increase risk of cardiovascular disease. The people who got their protein from plant-based sources, from all plants, nuts, and seeds, they had a 40% decrease in cardiovascular disease risk. This, my friends, is 100% swing in risk. 100% swing. Huge difference. In addition, you should know that the World Health Organization took their best scientists and evaluated over 800 research studies, and they concluded that all processed meats, including sausages, hot dogs, bacon, salami, ham, pepperoni, all of those, they are a class 1 carcinogen, meaning that they cause cancer, same as cigarettes, same as plutonium, same as asbestos, all right, cause cancer. And then all the other red meats, pork, beef, lamb, and by the way, they've done studies on chicken as well. So all of those are probably cause cancer. They've done studies on the poultry, and they're just a 2, they are a 2B, all right, category now. So they've done the research on that. So there's no amount of animal flesh that's safe, really, when you think about it, especially for the processed meats. No amount, all right? So please, 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 if you do it for anyone, please do this for your children and your grandchildren. I sent this information to my son's high school when he was back in high school, and I pleaded with them, I implored them to stop serving hot dogs and pepperoni pizza to the children. Please stop. And they did. They did. So you can make a difference. You can make a difference. All right. Another sympathetic causing food is going to be all dairy, including milk, butter, cheese, yogurt, cottage cheese, and ice cream. All dairy causes a sympathetic response. And everybody's baffled when I present this information, but you just got to get it's not natural for us. There is no mammal on the face of the planet. There are over 5,000 species of mammals on the face of the planet. There is no mammal on the face of the planet that routinely nurses a different species of mammal by choice. Not by choice. No, it doesn't happen. All right. It doesn't happen. Not routinely. No, there are exceptions, yes, once in a while, but not routinely. So, and there's no species of mammal that routinely nurses past infancy by choice. None, 0. So then why would it be logical for humans to be consuming the lactation products of a bovine that is about 2,000 pounds, that milk intended for a 65-pound calf that needs to get to 300 pounds in a hurry? Why would we do that? It makes no sense whatsoever, and it's actually quite harmful. In fact, what we show in the research clearly now, all right, dairy harms us. First of all, there's no fiber, excess fat, absolutely a sympathetic response right away, acidification, inflammation. What we also show is that babies that have milk early on in their growth and development, that is a major factor in developing colic, type 1 diabetes, and heart disease. And what we also show is that the countries that have the highest rates of dairy consumption have the highest rates of osteoporosis, not the lowest, the highest. And in addition, the major significant protein in dairy is called casein. And it's used in a lot of products. And by the way, you have to read the labels very carefully, because if it says caseinate or casein, it's used in a lot of things. It's the most potent promoter of cancer that we've ever seen. It doesn't cause cancer, but it promotes it. It promotes it. It accelerates it. So that's what it does. So that's another sympathetic food substance. So now the next one, another culprit, is refined sugar. Yes, refined sugar. Looks like a drug, sounds like a drug. Yes, it is a drug. In fact, there are crack houses that we have available to us that all they sell is one product. This is a store in Niagara Falls on the Canadian side. I had to take this picture because it's Sugar Mountain. Now, it's not a little teaspoon of sugar. It's not a cup of sugar. No, it's a mountain of sugar. All right, that's all they sell. What we've shown on the research is actually that sugar is as addictive as cocaine. Now, the typography in this is intentional because Coca-Cola was the major culprit here. Back in the late 1800s, they were asked to get rid of the cocaine in their formula for Coca-Cola because it was causing social problems and unrest. And so their scientists went to the drawing board to figure out what they could use to substitute for the cocaine and still have the addictive properties. So they figured out that refined sugar was just, in fact, it was even more addictive than cocaine. Now, I'm not saying that you should switch from sugar to cocaine. Please don't do that, okay? All right, don't do that. So it is as addictive as cocaine. In fact, we show this on the brain scans, that when we compare the hippocampus of these people, that on cocaine, it lights it up a particular level, but sugar lights up the hippocampus even more. So refined sugar is absolutely toxic, my friends, and you just have to understand it is toxic. It's a man-made substance. It's not natural. We don't see it. I'm not talking about the sugars that appear in fruit. That is a completely different story. All right, those are unrefined sugars. What I'm talking about here are refined sugars, completely different. And in addition, they're promoting inflammation. They get stored as fat. That's the only thing our body can do with it. Another major culprit in causing a sympathetic response in our food chain is going to be all the processed foods. And we've got tons of them. And this includes all the fast foods as well. All right, so all the processed foods, I don't care if it says lean cuisine or healthy choice, that is all just marketing. All right, so these are all processed foods. They all cause a sympathetic response. Now, there's one other area that I want to cover that really causes another sympathetic response. And this is real important because I know a lot of people have an affinity towards their alcohol. But the reality, my friends, is that there is no safe level. There's no safe level. And I don't care what kind it is, whether it's beer or wine or hard liquor or mixed drinks or any of that, it doesn't matter. Now, I want you to know the facts from the American Medical Association just recently issued this letter. Issued this letter August 13th of this year to the Dietary Guidelines for Committee. They said the 2025 Dietary Guidelines for Americans should recommend that men and women who consume alcohol should limit their intake to 1 drink a day on days when alcohol is consumed, and that non-drinkers should not start drinking in order to improve their health. Alcohol is a known human carcinogen that is associated with a higher risk of cancers of the breast, colon, rectum, esophagus, liver, mouth, pharynx, larynx, and stomach, okay? Higher consumption increases risk, but there is no safe threshold for alcohol and cancer risk. Please get that. There is no safe threshold for alcohol and cancer risk. None. The consumption of up to 1.5 drinks per day accounts for an estimated 26 to 35% of all alcohol attributable U.S. cancer deaths. I am working with a client right now who is recovering from prostate cancer and just recently got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Alcohol has played a big part in this process with him. All right, so please get this. All right, the CDC also issued this, that drinking any kind of alcohol can contribute to cancers of the mouth, throat, larynx, esophagus, colon, rectum, liver, and breast. Okay, so we've got that. And then here's the equivalent. I love this graphic because it really shows this up here. 1 bottle of wine per week, it's equivalent to about 5 cigarettes per week in men. Women, it's worse, okay? It's worse for you. It's equivalent to 10 cigarettes per week in women. So please understand the risk. Please understand. In Australia, they've done extensive research showing that of all the drugs listed here on the bottom, all the drugs, the one that has the greatest total combined harm to the user and harm to others is alcohol. It's over 75% harm. So it's significant. All right, now that I've thoroughly depressed you with all the things that you should consider eliminating or reducing in your dietary choices. So let's look at what does work. To do that, we get grounded in the wisdom of the ages from Hippocrates, one of the founder of modern medicine from many years ago, over 2,000 years ago. And he said this: let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. So what kinds of foods can actually be positive for us and put us in the parasympathetic state? Well, it's like this graphic shows. So to understand this, we need to get to the fundamental unit of the body, which is the cell. So the cell is the fundamental unit. We've got trillions of them, but all cells have similar features. So this is a model. Consider that a cell is an energy system, just like an automobile. So the engine of the cell, or what we call the mitochondria, there are the pistons of an engine. All right, so the mitochondria are what allow us to actually take fuel and convert it to energy. So they are the pistons of the engine. Now, a lot of people say, well, I got to have protein, protein, protein. Most people believe that the single most important factor they need in their nutrition and their diet is protein. That's nothing could be further from the truth. Protein is for parts. It's for the infrastructure of the body. You're not running your car on nuts, screws, bolts, and washers. You're not. Okay, you're not replacing your tires every other day. No, that would not be a good thing. So the infrastructure of our body needs a little bit of protein, not all the time, a little bit. That's it. For fuel, what we need are two things. One is glycogen. Number one, that's the primary fuel is glycogen. That at the cellular level, we need to be able to manufacture glycogen. And then the second thing we need is a little bit of triglyceride, so that we need a little bit to go along with that glycogen. So the glycogen is the human gasoline, and the triglyceride is the human oil. We are a diesel engine. We are a diesel engine. So a little bit of oil, mostly gasoline. That's what we need. That's how we function. Now, if we were to look at the biochemistry of how that works, we see this graphic here. This is straight out of a medical biochemistry textbook. Now, we need to be able to produce this molecule right here, adenosine triphosphate, ATP. And we produce it maximally through the mitochondria. And usually we have several of these inside the cell. Now, we need a little bit of the fatty acids, all right, the triglycerides. So we need a little bit of that. But what we need the most of is this particular compound here called pyruvate, which is half of a glucose molecule, a sugar molecule. But it's specially done. It's cleaved off from the glycogen. All right. So we need the glycogen, which is the human complex carbohydrate. It's a very particular, special complex carbohydrate that we must manufacture. Now, there are many different types of carbohydrates. Many, many, many. So a lot of people say carbs are bad. No, that is not true. That's a completely false statement. We need the right kinds of carbohydrates. So in order to formulate glycogen, we need to have two, count them, just two. There are only two carbohydrates on the face of the planet that we can utilize to actually formulate glycogen. And they are amylose and amylopectin. These are the two specific carbohydrates that we must have in order to formulate glycogen, which then gets broken down to pyruvate, converted to adenosine triphosphate, the energy molecule of the human body. If you want more energy, you've got to have more amylose and amylopectin. That's where it all begins. Now, I am sure you have not gone to the store and seen any product with a label on it for marketing that says high in amylose and amylopectin. I'm sure you've never seen it. I've never seen it, but it's the truth. That's what we need. So amylose and amylopectin, here are the molecular structure diagrams for amylose and amylopectin. One's a spiral, the other ones look like a tree. And there's this enzyme in our saliva called amylase, and we have it through our intestinal tract that actually helps to break down the amylose and amylopectin so that we can then reconform it inside the cell into this molecule, which is glycogen. So that's what we need to be able to do. Amylose and amylopectin are otherwise known as starch. Starch? Yes, starch. This is the cover of the scientific journal Starch. Yes, but what starch looks like for you and me, here's what it looks like. Legumes, beans, peas, lentils, over 2,000 varieties. You cannot possibly get bored, okay? In addition to that, whole grains, not processed grains, not flour. All right, so we're talking about whole grains. So everything is there, all the fiber, everything. All right, so Pillsbury got everybody into trouble when they created their refined white flour, because what they did is they stripped away all the good stuff, the fiber that we needed from the grain, and they left us with just the endosperm section of the grain, that little bit of that white flour. So because that's what they did back in the late 1800s. So we want whole grains, so steel cut oats and brown rice and amaranth and quinoa and farro and spelt and barley and all. There's tons of amazing, wonderful whole grains. All of them are good. Now, some people have a gluten intolerance, but that's really not the problem. Is not the gluten so much. There is a disease called celiac disease, and it's about 1% of the population. But the biggest problem that we have in this country is that the grains, a lot of times, especially in the processed foods, the grains that they use, what they do is they spray those grains with Roundup before they harvest them. And so that Roundup has this very toxic chemical called glyphosate. So that attaches to the grain and it's very toxic, and it causes all the intestinal problems that so many people are experiencing. So you have to get off the foods that are using that glyphosate in their harvesting process. So you have to be aware of it. I recommend organic as a result. That's really important. So you have to try to search that out, but test yourself. Everybody is different. Now, in addition to this are going to be starchy vegetables. Squashes are fantastic. Potatoes are fabulous. The Incas invented potatoes. They did. So there's over 4,000 varieties, all right? They got shipped to Europe from South America. And when Pizarro went down there and conquered the Incas, that's what they started exporting back to Spain, were all the potatoes. Really fascinating. So there's lots of varieties. I love the Yukon Golds. They're so good. I eat them all the time. There's so many really wonderful potatoes, and sweet potatoes are fantastic. I eat those all the time, all the time. They're great. Now, all plants produce starch. All plants produce starch. It's all vegetables. This includes all vegetables. In case you forgot what they look like, here they are. All right, so you need to have vegetables, lots of them. Green leafy vegetables we find so beneficial in so many things. All the colored vegetables, so great. We need all of this. We need all the diversity, plenty of vegetables, plenty of diversity, plenty of colors. We need all of that. And then fresh fruit. This is the #1 food that we've discovered in the dietary research that contributes to healthy longevity because of all the phytonutrients that are present in fruit, that are concentrated in the fruit. It's wonderful. We need to have all these antioxidants and phytonutrients in our body. And we're talking about whole fruit, not processed fruit. So very important to get. Now, in addition, there are some foods that they're on the borderline. They can go either a sympathetic or a parasympathetic response, depending on where you're at. If you have a chronic disease condition and your cells have too much fat inside the cells, these could cause a sympathetic response, and that'll be all the nuts, seeds, and avocados. So I want you to be aware of it. These are great foods. They have lots of benefits to them, but they're also high in fat. So it depends on where your body is. If you're overweight or if you have a chronic disease condition, these could potentially cause a sympathetic response for you. Everybody's a little different. Now, if you're healthy and you're fit and you're vibrant and you're active, then these are usually great. One avocado has about 30 grams of fat on average. A handful of nuts and seeds usually has anywhere from 14 to 22 grams of fat. If you have a chronic disease condition like diabetes, then you're trying to get your fat content for the day to be about less than 20, 25 grams of fat a day. All right, so keep this in mind. So these are healthy foods, however, they are high in fat and high in caloric density. So the benefits of a whole food plant-based diet, here are the benefits, some of the benefits, all right, stimulating the parasympathetic system, decreasing inflammation, uses little insulin. There's so many. I mean, in fact, there's research on every single one of these. I'm not going to read them all because there's just so much here. There's so many benefits. It's incredible. It's wonderful. There is no other diet on the face of the planet that can match this. None whatsoever. Not keto, not paleo, not the South Beach diet, not anybody else. No other diet can match the research on the benefits, the dietary benefits of a whole food, plant-based diet. Nobody, nothing, no other diet can do that. So remember this, that the food that you eat can either be the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. So keep this in mind. So I'm going to send you my food pyramid. So what I developed is a way of looking at food. And this really is a simple way to look at food neurologically. So the foods that cause a sympathetic response and are life depleting are meat, dairy, oils, processed foods, refined sugar, deep fried foods, all sodas. Legal drugs include caffeine, nicotine, and alcohol, and then all the excitotoxins, which include the food additives like MSG and aspartame and all the things that they put in food to try to keep your brain addicted. So stay away from all of those. Go towards the life-promoting foods that keep you in the parasympathetic branch. So starchy veggies, whole grains, legumes, greens, colorful veggies, and fruit. So stay there and you'll be great. Now, if you're healthy and fit, you want about a 70 to 30% split. All right, so energy foods, about 70%, greens and colorful veggies and fruit, about 30%. Now, if you're trying to lose weight and you're battling a chronic disease condition, then you probably want to have about a 50-50% split here. So a 50-50 split. All right, but that'll work really well for you and it will support you. So a couple of recommendations for follow-up reading. I'm going to send you all an email with lots of information. So number one is the book Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. And then another book that I highly recommend because it's loaded with the science in it and it really explains it so well. And it's one of my dear friends and mentors, Dr. John McDougall. And it's really an outstanding book. Excellent, excellent book. All right, so now let's get to the last part that we really want to cover about here. So we've talked about how to create a thriving and a healthy life. So now let's talk about how to create a happy life. All right, a happy life. So let's talk specifically about being able to be happy. Now, believe it or not, there's a whole new branch of psychology, and it's called happiness psychology. I was so thrilled to discover this. It is wonderful. Now, this graphic is actually taken from the documentary Happy. So I definitely recommend that you watch it if you haven't seen it yet. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful documentary, really is. And it really explores this whole process of psychology, of understanding how we can be happy. For decades, we've been studying how is it that people are not working well mentally and all the disorders and all the psychological and mental disorders. And so we have the whole DSM manual and looking at categorizing all the personality disorders and all the dysfunction of our mental health and mental well-being. But we've never really devoted an entire study to how do we actually become healthy and happy mentally? How can we do that? So this is an entirely new field. I'm so excited, and it's a part of what we're focusing on in lifestyle medicine. It's so exciting, so exciting. So one of the things to look at is this, that we have in our culture a dysfunctional paradigm. So the dysfunctional paradigm that we're faced with, that we've learned, and I learned this growing up as well, is that if you work really hard, go to school, get a good job, and you'll become successful. And then when you become successful, then you'll be happy. So we learned this dysfunctional paradigm that happiness is preceded by a lot of hard work. And we've got to really work hard in order to accomplish and achieve and then become so-called successful. And then that will lead to happiness. So what we have is this whole culture that's caught up in, I got to get good grades. so that I can go to a good college, and I got to go to a good college so I can get a good job, and I got to get a good job so I can make a lot of money, and I got to make a lot of money so that I can set myself up for retirement, and I have to set myself up for retirement so that when I retire I can actually be happy. And then people actually retire and they're miserable and they're depressed, and it happens all the time. So this paradigm doesn't work. And what we've shown in the happiness psychology is that the actual way our brain works is in reverse. It's really fascinating to see this, that the actual way our brain works is that if we focus on being happy right now in our life, that actually leads to greater success and accomplishment and joy and peace. It really does. We've got it, we've had it all backwards for such a long time. And it really is consistent with what we spoke about earlier, that as he thinks in his heart, so is he. And as James Allen talked about, as a man thinketh, so you are today where your thoughts have brought you. You will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you. So it's about thinking about being happy now. If we have happy thoughts now, that creates success and joy and peace later. We also have a problem in our culture. I don't have the slides on this. I will talk about it in other of my seminars. We also have a problem in our culture that we have collapsed and combined our interpretation of accomplishment with success. So what we have in our culture, what's pervasive, is that if you ask people, what is your definition of success? And what they talk about is accomplishment. Having the nice car, having money, having nice clothes, having the nice house, all those things. You ask people, what's your definition of success? And they all they refer to is accomplishment. One of my favorite teachers, Coach John Wooden, he said that accomplishment is not the same as success. Accomplishment is winning the race, attaining the prize, accomplishing the goal. Nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not the same as success. And so what we have to do is we have to separate accomplishment from success. And when we look at success on its own, as Coach John Wooden defines so eloquently, that success, true success, is peace of mind that arises from the self-satisfaction of knowing that you have done your best to be the best you're capable of. And my addition to that is right now, because it's a moment by moment experience. Yeah, I've done my best to be the best that I am right now. And when I'm in that state of being satisfied with that, then I can have a peace of mind. That is real, true, meaningful success. And nobody can take that away from you. It's wonderful. So what we show in happiness research is that it's about being happy first. That leads to success. Most people actually, what they do is they pursue hard work and they think they're going to be happy, but what they're really pursuing is pleasure. So we have a whole culture that we see of pleasure seekers. Now, the Dalai Lama was really brilliant. He actually talked about, and I'm going to send you the article that he talked about, distinguishing pleasure versus happiness. So one of the things that we see, pleasure is immediate gratification. It's a temporary fix for our feelings. It usually requires very little effort. There's not a whole lot of hard work involved. It comes easily, yet it fluctuates. It's momentary. It's not sustainable. It's usually, and basically it's consistent with the sympathetic nervous system, it's for the avoidance of pain. It goes right along with avoidance of pain and conservation of energy. But it generally leads to more suffering. I have clients down in San Francisco that I was working with before COVID, going down there. And it was interesting because I would get off the BART and walk down Market Street to go to their offices. And it was interesting. I would just watch. And I'd noticed that so many people were just walking around looking at their phones. That's all they were doing. There were days that there were so many times that I went down to San Francisco and I'd count to see how many people did I actually have eye-to-eye contact with. On average, 2. In a 7-minute walk, I'd have 2 people with eye-to-eye contact. They're all in the throes of pleasure. And that's what we do on our phones a lot of the time. As the Dalai Lama says, that their pleasure and happiness are different, right? So happiness is completely different. And what we show neurologically is that pleasure just focuses on the central nervous system, very little into the frontal lobe. But happiness integrates the entire brain when we're really pursuing happiness. So it's delayed gratification. It may take some time. Yet when we attain it, it's much more sustainable. It requires consistency. Oh my goodness, there's that word, consistency of effort. And we need to be persistent for a long period of time. It may require initial pain or sacrifice. It may, but it leads eventually to liberation and no suffering. Really does. So this is what we are faced with. How can we minimize the seeking of pleasure and actually maximize the seeking of happiness? Consider this wisdom, and I love this, that happiness is not a destination, it's a choice. It's not a result. Nothing will make you happy. Nothing will make you happy until you choose to be happy. All right? Nothing can make you happy. No person will make you happy. No way, it's not happening. Unless you decide to be happy for yourself. Your happiness will not come to you. It can only come from you. This is powerful to really understand and embrace. One of the affirmation statements that I have my clients say is this one on the to the side here on the right. I choose to be happy. It's a choice. I choose to be happy. It's powerful. One of the teachers that I've learned from is Ray Chambers. Now, Ray Chambers was a very accomplished person on Wall Street. He had all the accomplishments. All right, he had the beautiful home, the cars, the money, the clothes, the trappings, everything. And yet, he was not happy. He was miserable. And so he broke away from that world and started studying from monks and teachers and studying about happiness. And now he teaches CEOs and executives and he coaches them on Wall Street. He coaches these people. And one of them is Jeff Weiner. Jeff Weiner is the CEO of LinkedIn. And so I'm going to send you the interview that Jeff Weiner had with Oprah Winfrey. It's really profound. It's wonderful. So Ray Chambers has these 5 keys to happiness. So I thought I'd share them with you here. So it's consistent with what we've talked about earlier. So the first key is to live in the moment. Lao Tzu said, if you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are worried, you are living in the future. To be happy, live in the moment. Powerful. Second key is it's better to be loving than to be right. Wow, it's really, really amazing to understand this because most people would fight to be right. They're always caught up in their attachments to being right. Consider that people actually even go to war just to be right. It's better to be loving and accept others just the way they are than to be right. Third key is to be a spectator to your own thoughts, especially when you become emotional. That's the most important time. When you become frustrated, irritated, angry, upset, annoyed, that's the best time to be observant of yourself, anytime. So to be a spectator and recognize what's going on in here, and to be responsible for your thoughts. Fourth key is to be grateful for at least one thing every day. Notice gratitude again makes its appearance here. So we've talked about that before. And then again, service, help others every chance you get. Every chance you get, just look for some random act of kindness and being able to do that. So these are great keys to happiness. In the email, I'm going to send you also a fabulous TED Talk by another psychologist, a happiness psychologist by the name of Shawn Achor. Shawn is a brilliant and funny, very funny guy. And he has this fantastic TED Talk. He is out of Harvard. And he wrote this book called The Happiness Advantage, how a positive brain fuels success in work and life. And it's just fantastic, really great stuff. Now, what he showed in the research of this process of the happiness advantage is that people who practice these practices experience 37% more success, were 3 times more creative, 19% more accurate in their work, 23% fewer fatigue symptoms, 10 times more engaged, and 31% more productive. Holy moly, that's amazing. There's no drug that does this. It's about being able to practice happiness. So here's, just to give you a summary, get the book, watch this TED Talk, but he's got lots of information and it's really great. So here are Shawn Achor's 6 daily happiness exercises. So you'll notice the overlap here. All right, so number 1, gratitude exercises. Write down 3 things you're grateful for that occurred over the last 24 hours. They don't have to be profound. It could be a really good cup of coffee or the warmth of a sunny day. Number 2, the doubler. I like this one. Take 1 positive experience from the past 24 hours and spend 2 minutes writing down every detail about that experience. As you remember it, your brain labels it as meaningful and deepens the imprint. So this is great to have. So have a gratitude journal and then take 1 thing and then write every detail about it for just 2 minutes. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Now, number 3 is the fun 15. Just 15, all right? It's all I ask. Do 15 minutes of a fun cardio activity. Doesn't matter what it is, all right? Could be gardening, could be walking the dog, could be dancing. Every day, just do something. Do something. The effects of daily cardio can be as effective as taking an antidepressant. Right now, this is critically important as everybody's experiencing shutting down, loneliness, isolation. This is critically, do something. All right. Number 4, meditation. Every day, take 2 minutes to stop whatever you're doing and concentrate on breathing. Just breathing slowly, consciously, smoothly. Even a short mindful break can result in a calmer and happier you. It really does work. It's so profound. I do this every day. Really makes a difference. Number 5, conscious acts of kindness. Absolutely. At the start of every day, I think this is a great thing that we can do, especially now that we're all in isolation. Start your day with this. At the start of every day, send a short email or text praising someone you know. Okay, be generous with your praise. Our brains become addicted to feeling good by making others feel good. You want to feel better? Make somebody else feel better. It works every single time. Now, number 6, it's difficult now because of COVID, but if you do all these others, it can really make a difference. But we want to be able to deepen our social connections, spend time with family and friends. These days, you have to do it by Zoom or you have to do it by phone. Our social connections are one of the best predictors for success and health, even life expectancy. And this is absolutely true. Be sure to attend my Creating Healthy Relationships seminar that I'll have in several weeks. So make sure you check out that. So these are Dr. Shawn Achor's 6 daily happiness exercises. So you can see the trend here. It all fits together. It makes a difference. What we've also shown in the research is that we can actually stimulate certain neurotransmitters in our brain. I love this how to hack the happiness chemicals in our brain. So dopamine, which is the reward neurotransmitter, you can hack into that by completing a task, doing a self-care activity, eating food, or celebrating a little win. All right, so that's dopamine, the reward of neurotransmitter. Then there's oxytocin, which is the love neurotransmitter. Play with a dog, play with a baby, holding hands, hugging, give someone a compliment. All right, so you can see the overlap, how it's all coming together. So that fuels oxytocin to flow. And then serotonin is to improve your positive mood. So meditate, running, sunshine, walking in nature, swimming or cycling, doing something. So that helps elevate your mood. And then endorphins help with decreasing pain or any kind of being uncomfortable. So laughing exercises, absolutely. 10 minutes of hearty laughing are really so therapeutic. It's amazing. Watch a comedy, dark chocolate, just a little bit, okay? And then exercise. All right, so being able to do these. Now, notice there's no phone on any of these. All right, so no electronics. All right, so that's what you can do, except for watching a comedy. You have to watch a movie. All right, so being able to do that. So these are really great. I refer to the wisdom of Lao Tzu to sum this all up. So one, to watch your thoughts because they become words. Watch your words because they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. And watch your character, it becomes your destiny. Really powerful again. Ancient wisdom. Another one of great wisdom was Gandhi. I love Gandhi. He was so wise, had a lot to say. Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. However, I added to that. So happiness is when what you think, what you say, what you do, who you keep close, and what you eat are in harmony. That's from me, all right, to you. So my friends, I've given you plenty of practices to take on for yourself. Now, here's the invitation. You don't have to take them all on at the same time. Just pick one or two that will make a difference for you. So here are some of the practices that we talked about today. Be grateful, eliminate complaining, help others, read and listen to good books, mindful eating, surround yourself with positive people and energy, yoga and meditation, improve your nutritional habits, and choose happiness. Choose happiness and all the practices that go along with that. So I've given you plenty to work on, lots to work on. So hopefully you can find one or two that can really make a profound difference. Start going to work on them right away. The sooner, the better. Don't wait. Don't put it off. Start doing it right away. So now let's talk about how you can create a successful lifestyle change. How can you do this successfully in taking on and adopting these practices? So let's talk about that. So first I'll start with a question. So how many of you would like to make the rest of your life the best of your life? I hope everybody feels that way. But imagine for a moment, if you were actually living your best life, what would that look like for you? Imagine that. Have you dreamed about it? Have you been able to think about it and ponder that? Hopefully, would it be something like this? Would you be one of these extraordinary people that as they age, they are so physically fit and active and joyful and having a great time in their life? Would you be wanting to finish your life dancing on the beaches and being filled with health and energy and vitality and fun? Is that how you want to go out in your life? I do. That's how I want to end up. So you want to think about this. So the question now becomes this: where are you now? Where are you now? Are you there yet? Chances are you're not. So how will you get from where you are now to where you want to be? If you want to make that change and you're really committed to that and you're serious about it, you need to have a plan, don't you? Absolutely. But the question now becomes, do you have a plan that's actually proven to work? Most people don't. They struggle with their health. They struggle with their plans of action. They try and try and try and try and fail in between. So what we want to be able to do is have a proven plan. Most people don't, but I do. I do, and I'm living proof. Because why? 26 years ago, I was 55 pounds heavier than you see me today. I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and high blood sugar. The nurse practitioner told me I had issues, but I didn't care. I had ruptured my Achilles tendon 4.5 years earlier, and I was depressed. So I was eating all the junk food I could get. And so I let myself go until a friend of mine walked up to me that day, and I was coaching my swimmers on deck, and he said, "Getting a little chubby there, Ruben," and then turned and walked away. Oh, I was mad. And I had a buttermilk donut in my hand. I wanted to throw it at him, but I didn't want to waste the donut. So I got angry. First, I got angry at him, but then I got angry at me because I realized I had done it to myself. I had done it to myself. And I realized that I had to take complete responsibility for the fact that I had done it to myself. John Maxwell, another one of my teachers, says that a person's maturity begins when they can take complete responsibility for their life. Completely true. So I made a solemn promise right there and then to never go back to being unhealthy and unfit. And I started to use what I'd learned for so many years, being an athlete, being in healthcare, and all the things that I'd learned. I started to put it to use. See, knowledge is not power. It's the application of knowledge that gives us power. So I started to use this information. I created a plan, and I started to use what I'd learned, and I applied it, and I changed one habit at a time. And it took me about a year, and I lost all the weight, and I've been healthy and fit ever since. Now, what I've been doing since that time has been teaching others how to use the same 4-point plan that I have for being able to change your lifestyle. So my 4-point plan, very simple, straightforward, no nonsense, and no mystery, and it absolutely works. Number one, we must begin from within. Absolutely. Einstein said the significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. So we have to take responsibility for the fact that we created our own problems, not intentionally, but subconsciously. So we have to rewire our subconscious mind. And this is what I teach people how to do. Most of us have never had a course on how to rewire your subconscious mind. Be sure to plug into my seminars that I have dealing with eliminating self-sabotage. And I've got lots of wonderful information around this. Second thing is that we need a proven strategy, because doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results, as Einstein said, is the definition of insanity. So let's not go there. So I have a proven evidence-based approach. That's what lifestyle medicine is all about. It's an evidence-based approach. It's proven. The third thing is that we absolutely need to be intelligent about setting ourselves up for success with the right kind of support and accountability. Because when we have that, we do produce amazing results. Nobody graduates from high school without any teachers and without any books, right? So we've got to have that support and accountability. And then the fourth thing is that we need to develop a track record of consistency. That is the only way that we can produce the habits that produce the results that we want in our life. Habits produce results. So we need to be able to do this. So this is the 4-point plan. And this is how it works. So a couple of things that I have to offer. I do one-on-one work with people. I do offer lifestyle medicine consultations. I'll work with you one-on-one. I work very comprehensively to set you up with a lifestyle medicine plan to get you started on your journey to transforming your life. I also have a group program. I have my Evolving Health 12-week lifestyle medicine immersion program. This is the picture from October 2019. And so we're doing this now virtually. So the next 2 programs will be virtual. The next one's going to be February over the course of 2 weekends. The last one we did in October was virtual, and it's fantastic. It just really went really, really well. So it's outstanding. I have an entire curriculum that goes along with this program. It's extensive. The first weekend, we deal with the mindset. Really important, so that you do not sabotage yourself. So we set you up. I set you up properly. And then the second weekend is all about the habits that you need to develop in areas of nutrition, hydration, cardiovascular exercise, strength, and sleep. But then I set you up for success, because you're going to actually create a goal. I'm going to teach you how to establish habits, and you're going to create this goal and create a 12-week plan, and you're going to have 12 weeks of follow-up as well. So you're not going to be left hanging. You'll have a plan, and you'll have a plan of action, and you'll be in action, and you'll have me coaching you for 12 weeks. It's outstanding. It's outstanding. So it works really well. Just one of my students, just to show you one of the many success stories. So this is Donna. When she's a retired nurse from Kaiser, and so when she first started with me in 2018, she had lost some weight. She had already been plant-based for 8 years, but she was struggling. So with the program, we were able to make those fine-tuning adjustments. And so here you see her now, January 2020. And by the way, she's still here, 70 pounds lighter. She's doing great. She walks 4 or 5 miles a day. She's active. She's doing great. And she will tell you she is living her best life. At 68 years old, she's doing phenomenal. She's just having the time of her life. In addition, if you're an employer, I actually do work with companies and organizations, and I do lifestyle medicine in the workplace. It's one of the things that I love to do. I'm very passionate about, because I'm also an executive and business performance coach. So I combine the two, and it's fantastic having healthy leaders and healthy organizations to go along with healthy lives. So it works really well. And so if you need any more information, I got plenty that you can check out my website. This is the information. I'm going to send you all these slides, so don't worry, you're going to get all this information. So I'll stop the share and I'll open it up for some questions and see who has some questions, anything at all. Anything at all. If you have your microphone, you want to unmute, so go ahead and go to unmute. Let's see who's here. There's a whole bunch of you that are here, so this is great. Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, so for people who do not have high blood pressure, how horrible is salt? So the thing is, we actually need a little bit of salt in our diet to be healthy. We need just a little bit, but it's not very much. In fact, if you remember the story of Gandhi, that they actually walked to the seashore to make sea salt. That was a rebellious thing to the British. They actually made their own sea salt because we need a little bit of salt. It's not a whole lot that we need, though. So the problem that we have is that with processed foods, they put tons of sodium in the foods. They put far too much. So we have an overdose of it, and it's far too much. So that's the problem that we have. So if you do have high blood pressure, you need to reduce the salt. And if you don't have high blood pressure, a little bit of salt for flavor is fine. It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly normal. It's not fine. Another really good documentary is What the Health on Netflix. Yes, absolutely. Fantastic. I got a whole list of them. That's great. How do video games affect health? Great question. So there's been tremendous research in the neuroscience field about how electronics affect our development, in fact, developing brains. And for children, it's so detrimental. It's really a problem. My younger children went through Waldorf education, and I actually did a lot of their training programs that they had for the parents that presented a lot of the research on this, and it was rather interesting because we show that the developing brain is so negatively impacted by electronic media, especially for the first 12 years. In fact, the rule in Waldorf education is no electronics, no TV, no video games, no cell phones for the first 12 years of their growing up. And I really have seen the benefit of that. It really makes a difference. So my two younger boys, no media for the first 12 years, and there's a difference I could definitely see. And I think we see so much damage from having all these video games and everything else. So absolutely. Other questions? Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Ask away. I'm here for you. I will not go away until I answer all your questions. Okay. Other questions? Anything at all? Anything at all? Ask a question.
Well, that's
Ayakopo.
I don't know. I'm sorry, it's kind of loud here, but
Yeah.
1 second.
Genetically, I think we're not supposed to.
So I don't know if this is like an eating disorder, but like lately, for me, I've been trying to intermediate fast, and like sometimes when I'm intermediate fasting, I eat a lot, and I eat like so much at one sitting, and I don't really know if that's really a bad habit or not, or if there's better ways to approach that, because like my ultimate goal is to like build muscle mass because I'm really into fitness, right?
Okay.
So like I don't know if that's the best possible way to be eating, really, because like I've been struggling with like worry and like depression and feeling down on myself and not really amounting to much in my life, because I don't know, I feel like that's also a common problem, but like sometimes I feel like I'm alone, and I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't want to get off track. But that's my question. Like,
No,
if intermittent fasting is what's best for me to help cope with my problems, I guess.
okay, great question. So I hear you completely on that.
Thank
So
you.
let's talk about, so first of all, what we've shown in the research, Jacopo, is that intermittent fasting
Mm,
is a fad that's a popular fad right now. Okay, but here's what happens. So you want to think back to what I presented about the central nervous system. So either you're in the sympathetic state or the parasympathetic state.
okay.
So now think about babies for a minute. Okay, so babies, when they're nursing from their mothers, do you know about how often they nurse?
Not really, but like
About every two and a
once,
half to
twice.
3 hours. It's about every
Oh,
2
wow.
to 3 hours. Okay, so
Right.
mothers who have nursed their children, they will tell you, if you don't nurse on a
Yeah.
in a proper timely manner, the baby's going to start crying.
Okay, yeah.
So that's what will happen. Now, it turns out that our brain is wired to eat about every 3 hours on average while we're awake. Not while you're sleeping.
Okay.
Don't eat while you're sleeping. It doesn't go well. Okay.
Yeah.
So eat while you're awake. So about every 3 hours. And that keeps us in the parasympathetic state.
Yeah.
It keeps us in the parasympathetic state. So if you do intermittent fasting, so you're going a long period of time without eating, and you're eating for a short period of time, and then
Yeah.
sleeping. So what happens when it's shown in the research, that puts you in the sympathetic state.
Okay.
Now, when you're trying to build muscle and be healthier and being an athlete, I was a collegiate swimmer and a pro basketball player, so I'm still an athlete. Okay, so the thing is, I have excellent muscle density. All right, the thing is, I have to stay in the parasympathetic state. So every time I go into the sympathetic state, we lose muscle density, we lose muscle mass. So
Okay.
it's very important for us to be able to maximize the process. And so intermittent fasting doesn't work, especially for athletes. Now, my youngest son is a collegiate swimmer. Do you think it would
I'm a football player. I have a background of being a football player and wrestling and doing track, and like, yeah, I've been doing like intermittent fasting for a while, but like the way that I'm doing it is like I feel unmotivated, and I feel like I'm really lazy throughout the day. So I think what the idea definitely does ring some bells for like how I should better be eating and whatnot. Sorry to cut you off, but
No,
I just wanted to give you.
No, that's
Okay.
great. So, I mean, I've coached high-level athletes for 40 years. So I would never, ever put a high-level athlete on an intermittent fast approach. Never. Never do it. So my son,
Okay.
65, he's got 46% muscle, he's 9% body fat, very lean.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Mm.
He eats all the time.
Yep.
All the time. He's eating all the
Must
time.
be-
And his body is like a furnace. He just burns through food. So he has to. He has to eat. So think about that. There's research on that. I'll try to include that in the email that I sent to everybody. So really great.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Appreciate
Anyone
that.
else? Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Anyone else? Questions? That was great. Anyone else? Anyone else? Going once? Anyone? Any other questions? Going twice? Okay. Any other questions? Going 3 times? Okay, Scott, raise hand at the last second. Good. Scott, ask away. And then George. Okay, good. George, unmute yourself. I mean, Scott, unmute yourself.
Oh, no, I was just waving by. I didn't see.
Oh, you're waving by. Okay, George, you have a question?
Okay, no, I thought you were finished and so I was waving
No,
goodbye.
I
too.
say going 3 times. I thought you had a question. Okay, so anyway, thank you all for being here. Thank you for being part of this program, participating. Appreciate that. And then I'm going to send you an email, so look for that. It'll include the recording for this program. It'll include lots of resources, lots of information, and I'll include all the slides as well. So be sure to check that. Please, please, please share this. Share this information with people in your lives. All right, please share this with them. You may save a life or two. You never know. So please do that. So thanks again. All right, see you next week, next time, whenever you join me. All right, these are all for free. So see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.